Hello, readers. It's time for another reading mini lesson. Today, you need to be able to explain an implicit main idea of a text. We will focus on informational reading, so let's get started. The main idea of a text is the big idea, or the most important point of a text. An explicit main idea is directly stated by the author in the text. But today we will be focusing on an implicit main idea, meaning that the author will allow us to have clues to understand the main idea, but won't directly tell us what it is. Main ideas are written as a one-sentence summary. When we think about this, it's important to remind you that we're not looking for the topic. A topic could be expressed as a word or a phrase, but a main idea can be expressed as a complete sentence or idea. Let's get another example to help us understand this idea. Let's look at this image of a table. If we think of the main idea as a tabletop, and the details that support the main idea as the legs of a table, the information is not complete without both parts. These things work together to really help us understand fully what the author's ideas are. To determine a main idea, you need to ask yourself, what is this text mostly about? So as I read, I'm continually asking myself that question. And I come up with new ideas as I read on. The next thing I also focus on is reading the title. While you're reading a title, ask yourself, how does this title connect to the topic of the text? Is it a clue about the main idea? Third, look for repeated or bold words. Ask yourself, how do these key words connect to the topic? After all, understanding the topic is one component of understanding the main idea. And then last, after you've read through an entire text, you'll really start to formulate your understanding of the main idea. And you'll have to evaluate, do all of the ideas help support that idea? Here's an example text we will be working with today. As we have worked in class, we've taught you to do things to help get yourself situated for reading and deep understanding. We often start out with numbering the paragraphs, which I've done for you here. And the other thing I'm going to focus on is underlining those repeated words or phrases. In this case, the word that pops up often is automobile. Cars are synonyms for automobile, so I've underlined that as well. And the word auto is short for automobile. So I'm going to look at this text before I read and understand that this is probably having something to do with cars and automobiles. That's not the main idea. That's the topic. So as I'm reading, I'm going to develop my main idea based on information about automobiles. Let's focus on that first paragraph. Automobiles have been around since the early 20th century. Even those earliest cars had braking systems. They did not have much else to protect those traveling in cars, nor did they protect anyone else nearby. Automakers have been tinkering with brakes ever since in order to make them safer, but the next non-brake safety innovations didn't arrive until the 1930s. In that decade, the laminated windshield arrived. This meant that a coating was placed over the glass. It kept the windshield from shattering into thousands of loose, jagged pieces. The 1930s were also the decade when the first crash tests were performed. These took place in 1934. In 1937, another important innovation arrived that helped both drivers and pedestrians. That innovation was the turn signal. This is a key safety feature that we still use today. As a reader, I've noticed another word has started to appear multiple times in this paragraph. And that word is innovation. And if I don't understand the meaning of that word, interpreting this text can be difficult. I know that innovation means a change in the way people think about something. So I'm going to use that to help me better understand this text. I've highlighted a section of this text in pink to point out what I think the main idea might be referring to. They're talking about innovations with cars and how people change the way they think about them. And it explains that they always had brakes, but there were constantly new ideas coming around to make cars safer. As the writer continues the paragraph, you'll see that they've added in some information that helps us look at this. They show about the windshield, the first crash tests, and the turn signals. These were all new approaches to how automakers worked with automobile safety. Now you'll see that I've highlighted some of the text in green. This are These sentences are details that support those topics that are presented in blue. So you'll see that these sentences are explaining about the laminated windshield. This sentence explains about crash tests, and these sentences explain about the turn signal. Let's move on to the second paragraph. Padded dashboards first showed up in 1947. Amazingly, one of the absolutely most crucial auto safety features didn't become standard until long after World War II. That is, of course, the seatbelt. Standard means that something comes in all new cars. Two-point lap seatbelts first became standard in Sweden in 1958. This soon spread to other automaking nations. The three-point seatbelt we use today became standard in all cars in 1970. Later, in the 1970s, airbags were first introduced. In the 1980s, the anti-lock braking system became standard. This is another crucial safety feature. Readers, you'll see that I've highlighted a section of this text in pink. I'm thinking that has a big clue to help me understand my main idea. There are three ideas that support that main idea: the padded dashboard, the seatbelt, and the airbag, and the braking systems. Details that help understand those supporting details are highlighted in green. Let's move on to paragraph 3. Modern digital technology has added many new safety features in recent years. Backup cameras help drivers see in the blind spots behind their cars. Sensors can now tell you whether you're too close to another car. They can also alert you when you're about to be passed. Such features might have been unimaginable to auto pioneers a century ago. Again, I've highlighted text in pink that supports my understanding of the main idea. Highlighted in blue are those supporting details, and the green, those are those extra details that really help us get an image in our mind or really help us understand the detail. Now here's my interpretation of this text. In the first box, you'll see that I've written out my sentence describing what I think that their main idea was stating. There have been many changes to automobiles over the last century to make them safer for drivers, passengers, and pedestrians. The author chose to segment this passage into 3 paragraphs based on time. That's where that structure of text is so important to understand. I see supporting details in each paragraph that show me, yes, the author is explaining to me changes over time help make automobiles safer. I've listed those details for you to look at. Now that we've gone through this lesson, it's time for some guided practice. As you read, see what you understand about text and how the details support the main idea, and how you can state the main idea in your own words.